Hey, LaChina, come in.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
So good to see you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me over on your off day.
Come on, let's go. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. This
Absolutely.
is nice.
Please, if you don't mind.
Ooh.
I took the liberty of ordering us some food. So, like, normally I do love to cook, but it's been a little busy lately. So
Just a tad.
I haven't had the chance to. But one of my favorite foods is Thai food. So I found a place out here that I have frequented a lot already. So I just ordered us some things. I got you some curry with salmon. I didn't know if you wanted rice, but if you want some vegetables, I can dish it out for you and we can kind of chill and eat a little bit.
All of this looks amazing.
Smells
yes, let's do it. So I happen to know that you like to cook because there's a hashtag on Instagram.
Oh gosh.
Chef Nneka.
Yes.
How was Chef Nneka born?
Honestly, actually, out of necessity, I'll say. Chef Nneka was born out of me playing in Russia. And one day I just came home and I was like, I just want to have a burger. Because I couldn't find one. And I don't necessarily go to fast food restaurants. I was like, I just want to have a burger. And so I went to the grocery store. I just looked up a recipe online. And that night I just went home and made a burger. And I loved the process. The burger was salty as hell. I still ate it because I was just filled with so much pride that I even made my own food.
Yeah.
And from there, I just started experimenting in the kitchen. And so whenever I felt like eating something, I would go to the grocery store. And I'm someone that I'll go to the grocery store with a list, but I love walking up and down the aisles.
Really?
I'll just walk up and down the aisles and be like, and just start looking at things.
Do you ever try to incorporate new ingredients? Just say, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these, but I'm gonna put that in the cart.
Yeah, well, there's some things that I'm like, okay, I could do something with this, but I don't quite know what I'm going to do something with it. But I'm not I've never used this ingredient before. Let me see how I can incorporate it. I'm not that much of a risk taker. But I will pick something up and be like, oh, I could figure out how to do something with this. So I do that a lot. It was harder in Russia because nothing is in English on the labels.
Now that's tough. That's tough.
I couldn't take that risk. But I was going through the appliances. I bought myself a deep fryer and all types of stuff.
Invested.
I was making a lot of. Chef Nneka made a lot of stuff overseas, and now she's here doing her thing.
Well, it started out maybe as necessity, but it seems to have grown into more than that. First of all, the burgers are gone. From what I understand, 2018, you're plant-based, right?
Yeah, so I've tried so many different ways of fueling myself, and my nutrition has been up and down, but I was plant-based. I went plant-based twice, actually. Actually, I went vegan once and plant-based another time.
Okay.
So that was hard doing that, especially overseas, because you're practicing and playing all the time, and I didn't do enough research, and I was losing nutrients in certain ways. Now I would know how to do it today, where I would be okay with getting my protein up and stuff. But it was where I got better at cooking, because you have to figure out how to replace milk and the coagulants and eggs and butter and all those types of things. Yeah, so I got better as a home cook by going plant-based, which was kind of fun.
It seems like that's a trend for a lot of athletes, though. What did you notice about your body, your performance, going plant-based or vegan, as you were experimenting and changing your diet?
Yeah, so what I noticed quickly was that paired with how much cardio we were doing, you do shed a lot of weight. It can be fat, it can be muscle, it can be both. I think it's important to make sure that you do it with, professional supervision. So if you have a nutritionist or a strength coach that can kind of help you. Yeah. I was just kind of doing it willy-nilly.
Coming to practice exhausted,
right?
Nneka.
That was me. I was sleepy all the time, but I had lost so much weight. Yeah. And so coming back, I was able to understand how, because there's weeks or days at a time where I'm I just feel like going plant-based today. Yeah. And I know kind of how to do it better now, but it's a discipline. I think it's more of a mental discipline, especially as someone who grew up eating all the things. I think it adds a level of discipline that you can incorporate into other aspects of your life.
Well, speaking of growing up eating all the things, I thought I was going to come into a Nigerian feast. So is it Nigerian and Thai neck and neck, or is Nigerian your favorite?
Yeah, Nigerian is it's a part of me. It's in my blood. So when it comes to eating it, though, it's very specific to, like, who cooks it. So, like, I always eat my mom's food. You know, I always eat my auntie's food. And then I found some spots in all the different places that I've been that, you know, I like certain things. Like, it's almost kind of like when you go to someone's house and they're like, oh, they make that really good.
Right.
They make, her sweet potato pie is good.
Or your mother tell you, don't eat everybody's potato salad.
Or don't eat everybody's red sauce.
Oh,
you
the red sauce. Okay.
Maybe it's a Southern thing.
Okay.
The red sauce is also a thing.
I heard about the red sauce.
Yeah, so, like, that's the same thing. So, like, not everyone makes red stew the same. Not everyone makes jollof the same. Not everyone makes egusi the same. But I wish I could have done that for you, but it is time consuming.
You got to have time to, like, shop, get the right ingredients, all of that. But I do understand the commitment because as an athlete, we're talking your longevity. And that's one thing that people think about when they say Nneka Ogwumike is you're in your 13th season and you're in incredible shape. You have one of the best seasons of your career in your 12th year. Everyone doesn't get there. And it seems like from what you've shared that your diet has been a big part of that longevity.
Huge. And, like, I would say that, of course, you know, my nutrition has been a part of it, but I learned about my nutrition through being raised by certain vets who were very disciplined with their bodies, you know. And I would say that, you know, me being in my 13th season, it's a combination of, you know, what I put into my body and how I recover that really helps. You know, a lot of what you put in your body is basically what helps you. It's your fuel, you know, and I'm able to perform a certain way because I feel good with what I'm doing with my body, what I'm putting in my body, you know. And so food, I love food. One thing I tell people is that I love food so much, and I'm not someone that I don't like doing food restriction. I don't like doing any of that. If I'm going to eat, I'm going to eat. And so because I know that about myself, I make sure what I eat, I can eat a lot of. So that's kind of like my philosophy. So like I like sitting down. Like I'm not a snacker. I like sitting down and having meals.
Full meal.
Yeah, but it's going to be different if I'm like sitting down and having like fried food every single meal. You know, it's going to show in how I perform and how I recover. But if I want to eat a lot, then I want it to be good for my body. So that's kind of,
you can eat as much of it as you want to.
Yeah, I don't have to think about
Give
it.
me another scoop of that,
yeah,
please.
I'll have some more of that, you know, like that's kind of like my philosophy about it.
Okay, I love that. Do you have a cheat day?
So one thing that, these are good questions because cheat days work for certain people. I personally don't think it works for me.
Okay.
I think that when you start developing kind of an unhealthy relationship with like food is when people try to restrict things that they love. And I think that that's when you start tapping into mental health. Because if you're restricting stuff that you love to gain a certain aesthetic or to lose a certain number of pounds, I just don't feel like that is congruent with like you being your best self. I think there's ways to make healthier habits that incorporate moderation.
Okay.
So
I'm in.
So like for me, like I love donuts. I love donuts, but that doesn't mean that on my cheat day I'm gonna go and get like 24 donuts.
Yeah, you're not going to Krispy Kreme when the hot sign is on.
No, like I'm not gonna do that. But I can eat well, and so then when I feel like having a donut, I can have a donut because I haven't been eating like trash. You know what I'm saying? So I try my best to like incorporate moderation so that when I do feel like eating something that I want to eat that isn't necessarily healthy, I can have it because I practice the discipline of eating well all the time. That works for me.
That.
Yeah.
Well, you just unleashed me a little bit. You took some of the restrictions off of me from a diet standpoint.
Because I don't like it when people cut out stuff they love.
No. Yeah. So who inspires Chef Nneka? Like, is there a chef or someone that you look up to or that you frequent for recipes?
That's
or you
a very good
when
question.
You want to make something?
I mean, I would have to say my biggest inspiration is Pinterest. Anybody that shares their recipes on Pinterest, really. And then like on social media, I follow different like home chefs, people that just cook at home for the most part. But I will say that my favorite Nigerian home chef is Kiki Foodies. Her content is so good. So you have to go look at it. It is so good. But for the most part, you know, I'll like watch my mom and I'll help my mom and I'll see how she's cooking. I have teammates that I look at, you know, people in the league who love to cook. Like I look and see like what Alicia Clark is doing sometimes. There's a lot of different people that I'm inspired by a lot of different people, and I get I get excited when people do things, when people kind of show their own personality in their cooking. You know, for me, I'm not, for the most part, like I can look at a recipe and then I'll be like, oh, okay, like kind of like mix it up. Now, when it comes to like baking, like I can't, that's like chemistry. I can't, I have to follow the recipe with that.
Baking is tough.
I know how to follow instructions when it comes to baking. I can't bake off top. But cooking, I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, I can add this, you know.
With no recipe?
It depends. Like, if you ask me to cook something, like, I could probably, like, if you ask me to make a hamburger, yeah. And then I could, like, make it taste like something. So, like, if you wanted to be a little sweet, I would probably, what I would do was, like, you know, maybe get a little bit of mango and put it in the meat or something like that.
Ooh, that's
you know,
actually,
or like
that sounds good.
Yeah, like, you know.
I never thought about that because I like a little sweet in my food.
A little sweet, you know, like, if you wanted to add a little bit of sweetness in the burger, you could add a little bit of fruit. But now, like, I don't want the chefs coming for me, you know, be like, oh, that's not what you're supposed to do. I just experiment.
But you like, but it tastes good.
It tastes good, yeah. And I love plating, too.
So making it look nice.
Yeah, because we eat with our eyes. We eat with our eyes.
No, that's good.
So I like plating, and my family loves it.
So what's your favorite cooking show, or do you have any cooking shows that you watch?
Yes. So this isn't a cooking show. It is a baking show. I do love the Great British Bake Off.
I haven't seen that.
Or the Great British Baking Show. Oh, you have got to see it. It is so good. And then, to be honest, I really do like anything that Gordon Ramsay does. So, like, I'm a MasterChef person. I love MasterChef Junior. My dream would to be on MasterChef Junior as, like, a guest judge. Because seeing these little kids.
Oh, yeah. Doing it.
It is so impressive. Yeah. And, like, they can barely reach the counter.
Right.
It's like, so cute.
Up here with it.
Oh, my gosh. And then the latest show that came out, Next Level Chef.
Okay.
So that's another Gordon Ramsay show, and that one is really, really cool, too.
So if you were on Next Level Chef...
Well, I don't know if I could be on that.
But if But if you were on one of these shows, and they said, Nneka, you get to make one meal, and you get to pick, what is your award-winning meal that you would prepare?
My award-winning meal? I would probably make some sweet potato biscuits with gravy. Because I've made that so many times that I know how to make it.
What's in this gravy?
So the gravy is actually plant-based, so I don't use real cheese or like milk or anything.
So I know you haven't been in Seattle very long, but how do you go about finding your new food spots and sources in the city? Definitely
asking people around. I'm a researcher. So if I feel like the way I found this place was I searched Thai food. I read reviews, girl. I will go in there.
Do you also give reviews? Are you on there?
Depends. It depends.
Anonymously?
So my friends used to make fun of me for doing it. But I think that that's how you know. I'm like, yes. I find places because other people review places.
Yeah.
I be in the reviews. So like before getting to this, I saw it like online and then I saw how far it was. Then I went online. I looked at pictures of the food. I read the reviews online. And then I gave it a shot. And I do that with every restaurant that I eat at. Deep. I don't waste my hunger.
Well, Nneka, after 12 seasons in LA, you're in a new city. What's it been like adjusting to life in the Pacific Northwest?
It's been pretty smooth. You know, I think the transition, it's felt almost seamless in a lot of different ways. I definitely feel like I've come into what feels like, you know, a group of people that are very like-minded. There's a lot of intentionality. There's a lot of discipline across the board, from the front office all the way down to my teammates, and just good people all around. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
When free agency hit, you were the biggest name, right? Very sought after. Every team had Nneka Ogwumike on their list. How did Seattle separate themselves?
I mean, I think, well, one, I kind of had to step out of what I had only known and give everyone a fair chance. You know, I think the one thing that LA had that no one else could ever have is 12 years, you know? And so I had to make the decision as to, you know, whether or not it was that I was going to stay. And then I think that freedom kind of allowed me to step into these different spaces and to have conversations with different teams. And for me, Seattle set themselves apart as a group of people, an organization that wants to set the tone, that wants to be leaders, that wants to be winners, and have just a standard of excellence, and mostly investment and engagement across the board. And that's where I felt like I felt like it was firing on all cylinders when it came to coming to Seattle.
And how has that adjustment been? I mean, you spend 12 years in one place, you don't know anything different, so coming into something new, it's great, but there's also change. How have you adjusted?
I think that initially, it's always so interesting because when you experience like a public change like that, especially in sports, everyone knows it's happening, but like you're still sitting at home. Nothing has really changed for you at home. It's the off season. And I think kind of taking in all of the feedback, it was heartwarming to not even just take in people's excitement for me coming here, but also the appreciation from the fans in LA, for me being there for 12 years. And obviously that still being like, where I came from, and I was raised there in the WNBA. But the transition was different just because, the feeling of like coming into the season and you're like landing in your city, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is a different city. And getting to know a different area, making another area feel like home, it wasn't uncomfortable. I think it was just different, but I have a lot of teammates and coaches that more than helped with that transition, and it feels good to be here.
In your Instagram post that you were saying goodbye to LA, you said, I hope this is not goodbye, but see you later. What did you mean by that?
You never know, I mean, I feel as though I'm exactly where I am, and that's in Seattle, and I feel good here. But you never know where the future could take you, whether, even if it's not as a player, it could be as someone who's involved in the organization. I feel as though I didn't want it to feel as though I was like closing a door forever. But as a player right now, like, I'm with the Storm. That's all I'm thinking about.
This is where we are now.
This is where we are now. This is what's happening right now.
And what might we see different in this chapter for Nneka Ogwumike?
I think a level of freedom. I think that me being able to just come out here and hoop, me being able to be myself. I think I've spent a lot of really wonderful years kind of establishing myself as a leader, both on and off the court, especially, holding president as a role. But I think a lot of people got comfortable with that, and I love when people come up to me and they say, oh my gosh, we love what you're doing for the league. And they talk a lot about like all of the leadership aspects of being a president. But for me, sometimes I felt like I was hearing people forget that I can still play, and I can still get down. And it's not like I'm trying to prove anything to anybody, but I'm out here to play and I'm out here to win. And I'm surrounded by people who know that about me. I'm surrounded by people who give me that reminder, because I think I had settled into a lot of other things, but being here in Seattle, it helped me come back to what I'm here for. That's to play some basketball, and that's exactly what you can expect from me this season.
That just gave me chills, and all I could hear was, and you might be too young to remember this, but Roy Jones had this song, and it said, y'all must have forgot. And this might be the y'all must have forgot chapter for Nneka Ogwumike. Even though, I mean, last season you was hooping.
That's on them, though.
That part, okay?
It's not on me.
Jewel Lloyd, interestingly enough, described you as a point guard.
What?
Yes. She was very complimentary of the way you see the game and your role as a facilitator. And I looked at your stats a couple nights ago. You were out there in assists. But where may we see your game expand between the lines with this team?
I mean, thanks, Jewel. I would never describe myself like that. But I guess, like, the way that I would interpret that is, like, I feel like I'm a student of the game. I really love to learn, and I like to be hands-on. Like, I'm very much a practice player. Like, I really love being in it and getting better. I love making mistakes and, like, fixing those mistakes, And I guess that can kind of manifest itself on the court as me making reads and like suggesting different things. Now, I'll say that I don't have to do so much of that because Skylar has that down pat. She is our floor general. We call her Debo, actually. So she knows what to do, how to do it, and when to bring the pain. And I just want to match that, I want to match how Jewel plays the game and how she sees the game. And I think I just kind of do that by being vocal about it. I haven't always been vocal, but whether it's in practice or in the game, if I see something, I like to say something. So I guess that could be the aspects of a point guard that maybe Jewel sees in me a little bit.
Love that.
Mm.
What aspect of the city of Seattle are you most looking forward to enjoying this summer?
Oh, that's a really good question. People tell me a lot about getting on a boat.
Yes.
So if it's a boat that's taking me to an island, or if it's just being on the water,
seaplane.
Yeah, maybe. Let's slow down a little bit. But no, yeah, so getting on the water, and I think I realized, especially after being not just in LA for so long, but being in Cali for so long, I think I'm officially a West Coast girly, because now I'm in the Pacific Northwest, by way of Houston, of course, but being in the water, being by the water, and kind of enjoying water with mountains in the background, there's not a lot of places that you can do that. So I'm looking forward to when an off day presents itself. I'm looking forward to maybe doing that with some teammates.
When it comes by every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have everything here. That's what I love about Seattle. Like you said, the mountains, you've got the water. I've actually been on a seaplane when the All-Star game was here.
How was it?
It was incredible.
Really?
But then I went whale watching with Stewie. We were out there for 3 hours, 0 whales.
You know what's crazy is that I went whale watching with my family, but this was in Mexico. And within 10 minutes, a big mama whale came right by our boat with her calf.
No.
It was both exhilarating and frightening.
Scary.
Because she was the size of our boat. And it was, Chine got a video of it and everything.
She was freaking out, I'm sure.
There's hope.
So you have the city of Seattle, which you haven't got to explore a lot of yet. And then there's this championship legacy that the Seattle Storm holds. What excites you most about the challenge of what you face here and the expectations from a basketball standpoint?
I always love, I love standards. I love having, a barometer of excellence, and I think it's a combination of nature and nurture for me. Just being in the family that I was raised in, and getting to different programs that had that standard of excellence. It's kind of all I've known, and especially coming from LA, I think it's really important. I was actually speaking to my therapist, and she was telling me that my legacy doesn't end because I moved. I continue it, and so I want to be able to bring my legacy to that same legacy that is in Seattle. And I'm up for the challenge, I want to be great. And to do that, you have to be around great people. You have to be in a great environment. And that's where I'm at, I don't really feel like there's too much to explain about it. I think that sometimes people try to overcomplicate it. But the discipline is in the daily. The discipline is in the daily of what you do. You have to live it and you have to love it. And that's certainly the philosophy here. So I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, I remember when I was here for practice, was it dangerously disciplined?
Dangerously disciplined, yes.
That really stuck with me. I love that. How have you seen that playing out so far?
Oh, we are held accountable. Whether it's us, whether it's Noe, anybody on staff, we're held accountable. And I think there's also a level of trust that was built very quickly because of the example that Noe and the staff have set with being dangerously disciplined, with having competitive character. It allows us to kind of expel the newness and close those gaps in ways where, we can communicate directly with each other without taking anything personally. We can learn from a mistake quickly in real time in the game to get, another possession. And every single day there's a different standard, there's a different level of that we have to uphold, either from ourselves or from, what Noe imparts upon us. And she's not letting up. And I think that everyone has bought into it.
When I heard that right away, I was just like, man, there goes that word again. Me and discipline got to get more comfortable, because it's also a word that Dawn Staley uses a lot. Like
discipline.
When she talks about what is the word that just has been the centerpiece of her success, she always says discipline. And I'm like, dang, why could it be something else, like commitment?
But discipline doesn't have to be comfortable, though.
I know it shouldn't.
It oftentimes isn't.
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right? No, it shouldn't be. But that's kind of the challenge and the mindset of getting there. Is it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
You have to be comfortable in that discomfort.
Yeah,
until it's not.
Your move to Seattle was a part of a trend that we're seeing with WNBA players now in free agency, being able to go and move to different teams, not being cored as long. What role does ownership and leadership at these various organizations play in how these decisions are being made now versus before the last CBA negotiation? Like
the literal owners, or like the ownership and leadership of the players? Like, what do you mean?
The literal owners of teams and organizations.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think that along with me having my own free agency experience, this was my first real free agency experience. Along with that, and also the changing of the landscape of the league, of negotiations, of visibility, and people following, it is clearer that ownership and engagement are not synonymous. They're two things that you need. They're two separate things. And being able to communicate with different teams about what they're about, I was able to get a very clear barometer of what ownership is, what engagement is, and if the two are working together. And I personally feel as though if you have both of those two on point and they're working in the same vein, you're going to see success. And that was my experience in free agency, even with teams that I didn't go to. I could feel it. Yeah. It's clear, and players can feel that. And it's also reflected in the foundational components of a business. It's reflected in the staff, how people operate, how people do their jobs. It's reflected in the resources available to players. It's reflected in the accessibility that players have to certain people on staff, certain owners. Like, it's reflected in all of that. And I really feel like I don't want to see teams suffer, because that's not what's happening. Yeah. Especially with expansion. People are setting the tone, people are setting the bar. And I have my firsthand experience of seeing, things are different in different places. Yeah. All
right. Tell us your full name, and what does it mean in your native Nigerian language?
My full name is Nneka Ogwumike.
Ooh.
Yes. And Nneka means like my mother always remains. Chinwe means God gives. And then Ogwumike loosely translates to warrior.
Ooh. I love that. Growing up in Houston, how did your parents ensure that Nigerian culture was instilled in you and your sister's lives every day?
They didn't really force it. I think they were really just being themselves and doing what they knew. They were born and raised there. And so a lot of the things in the house that were just normal to us, we didn't realize were cultural. Something as simple as like how we sweep the floor. Like, there's a different broom that we use. Like, I don't use the broom here.
What?
Yeah, there's a different broom that you use.
This is news to me.
Yeah, there's things that, even like washing the dishes, like we never use the dishwasher. That might be also a Black people thing, but
probably, because my mother's like, why?
I think it's African and African Americans, but but then also cool specifically, it's eating certain foods. Like, we were never confused about when my mom would make rice and stew, when she would make goat meat or egusi or okra soup or vegetable soup. So it was just all kind of very normal for us. And then also when we would go to different events, whether it was like a party, a christening, any type of event like that, understanding that you have the ashwebi, you have the gele, you have the ichafu, like you have all of the different things that you wear. Growing up, we didn't necessarily know like the names of it, but when we saw it, we were like, oh, okay,
How does it still play out in your life day to day? Is it music? Is it food? Is it in what you wear?
Oh yeah, music, food, and what I wear. Currently, actually, I have a goal over the next like 2-3 years to like start speaking my parents' language natively. So I've been taking lessons now for about like 5 months. So that is the biggest way that it manifests. So I try to at least like do, 30 minutes to an hour every day. And then I try to speak it to as many people as I know, or I can just say whatever words that I know, which is actually more than I thought, which I thought was kind of interesting.
You do it better than you think. Okay.
Yeah, I knew a lot more. So I'm Igbo, so like I'm learning Igbo, but I'm learning Central Igbo because there's also different dialects, and both of my parents speak different dialects. There's hundreds of languages in Nigeria. There's 3 main tribes, and we're one of the 3 main tribes, which is Igbo. So I've been taking Igbo speaking lessons with my tutor, and then of course through food, music for sure, because it's really mainstream now.
It is.
I listen to, and to help with my Igbo lessons, I listen to a lot of Flavor. That's a Nigerian artist that is Igbo. So he speaks a lot of Igbo in his music. So I just try my best to like incorporate it in a seamless way. I think it's kind of in the same vein as like the moderation. It's also kind of like when you're trying to incorporate something new into your life, do it with things that you already do. So I listen to music a lot. I like to eat, and those are the ways that I incorporate it into my life.
I really like that. Igbo. I think I've heard that before. I think that's actually, is that the biggest?
No, I don't think Igbo is the
3?
biggest. I want to say, I don't want to misquote, but Igbo is not the biggest of the 3.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's spelled Igbo, but it's actually 3 letters, which is what I learned.
It's just IB. There's no G?
No, it's Igbo, but GB is a letter in Igbo language.
Just one.
Yeah. It's
GB is one.
Be. That's like...
Oh,
yeah. So
wait a minute.
It's really like Igbo, but people say Igbo just because it's like easier. Yeah. But GB is a language, is a letter.
Igbo.
Yeah.
That makes sense though, because that sounds like a B and G together.
Yeah, it's like you are kind of saying it together, but like when you see it, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How do I?
Yeah. Well, that leads me to another question. What do you think is the biggest misconception of Nigerian culture?
That's a really good one. Okay, so this is something that I say to my friends all the time. That people misconstrue, because I think a lot of people will meet Nigerians and think that we're incredibly arrogant and that, if I'm the Nigerian, that I don't necessarily come off that way, but it
exists.
So like Nigerians are known to be very boastful and very prideful, and we have this saying called "Naija no de carry last." That basically means like we're always first. Yes. Like I'll say like I'm better than you. But it's not to say that you're not good. It's for me to say, like, you do that, I'm going to do it better. And so anything that we do, we try to do it to the best of our ability. So we surround ourselves with people who are good, who are great, who are the best, and then we try to better their best. And I think that gets misconstrued a lot. I think people interpret that more as, like, maybe because also, Western society is a little bit more individualistic. So it's like, if I were to be like, oh no, I'm going to better you. It's not to say that you're trash. Yeah. It's just to say like, oh, okay, you did that.
You're challenging me to be better.
You're challenging me to be better.
Iron sharp as iron.
So exactly. Yeah. And that's what that interprets as maybe people thinking, oh, you think you're better than me and stuff like that. And there are, there's a degree, there is a spice to that a little bit. But that's what it means. Okay. Yeah, we just try to be the best at what we do.
I've definitely heard the no day carry last.
Yeah.
So is the pride in your culture something that you've always had, or is it something that has gotten stronger or more prevalent as you've gotten older?
It has certainly gotten stronger and more prevalent as I've gotten older. There's a deeper appreciation for it now. Anyone can relate to this, not even just kids of different cultures, but just being different. Growing up, kids are mean. People don't understand things that they're not familiar with. And that is reflected in my experience as, my mom would make me Nigerian food and I would eat it in the locker instead of in the cafeteria because people were like, oh my gosh, what's that smell? Like people would just start making fun of, what are you eating? What is that? Booty scratcher this, booty scratcher that. Like it just became a way for you to stand out that contradicted the goal of survival as being a kid, Yes. But as you get older, and I would say that this also holds true for being a woman, being a Black woman as well, it's in now, like apparently. African aesthetic is in, now, yes. But that's not why I appreciate it. I think I appreciate it more because a lot of my relationships are with Nigerian people, are with African people, and it's helped me see the iterations, the variations, the different types of ways people can still identify as being Nigerian, as being African, but still defying boundaries and still doing things that people may not believe that you could do, or being in spaces that were not made for you. And I think that that's really what fuels my pride now. And there's a level of pride that I have that helps me understand things that I don't necessarily directly relate to. So, when I have Black American friends, and I didn't grow up listening to Black barbecue music, family reunion music. I learned all of that on my own through my friends who understood that I had a different experience. And in the same way, I can teach them about things that they may not know or ever know about their background by me being Nigerian. I mean, I can trace back almost 8 generations of being Nigerian, and that's a privilege. You know what I'm saying? That's a privilege. And so using that to educate myself, using that to create a community of inclusiveness, and that helps us all kind of celebrate each other, that's what's helped me become more prideful in who I am, but also not gatekeep. I think it's very important, especially as people kind of see different cultures as a monolith, because they look at both of us, they see Black women. They don't say, she's Nigerian, and so that there's a way to create that common ground through our differences because of how we're viewed. If people weren't automatically going to give us a chance, I can learn about your background, you can learn about mine. We have different experiences that neither one of us can necessarily speak to firsthand, but we can experience firsthand through each other. So that's kind of what's helped me develop more of an appreciation for where I come from.
And it feels like we're living in a time where what makes you different makes you beautiful.
Yes.
Our world wasn't always like that.
No.
Right? Like it was, everyone tried to fit in and be one way and act one way and look one way. But now it seems like the more different you are, the more people are intrigued.
Exactly.
The more they want to know about you and why you're that way. And it's interesting that our world says...
It grows the pride.
Yeah.
It grows the pride because, I can meet someone and not know they're Nigerian, and then through conversation we find out we are, and I'm like, okay.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We're not acting the same, but we have a lot of similarities, I think that's cool.
Yeah. So, Nneka, how much of your off day is spent in your duties as the president of the WNBA Players Association?
I mean, it varies, I think I'm never really off. If things come up, they hit my line, and then I have to talk to Terry, talk to my first VP, KP, having an emergency EC meeting. There's a lot of different things that can kind of come up where we need touch points. But generally, I have a meeting weekly with Terry and Kelsey, and then monthly as much as we can with Kathy and Terry, that's been really great too. But it's kind of all the time. Slow days. Some days are slower than others.
Yeah, I almost feel bad sometimes calling you Madam President because I'm sure you're like, no, I just want to be Nneka today.
No. It's okay. I'm always ready.
I can't help it. Every time I see you, I see a crown. And it maybe doesn't have anything to do with that position. It's just your regal.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I don't mind it. It's fine. I love helping people, and I love being able to be a resource. And I learn so much from our athletes. I learn so much from our players, so much, and it helps me do my job better.
Your life is already so full. Like, you've got a beautiful family, you are an outstanding player, and it feels like there's so much responsibility that comes with this position in this role. Mm-hmm. Why do you enjoy doing this work?
I feel like I enjoy it because I came into this with people doing this work for me, There's a lot that I didn't know coming into this league. And I learned from so many vets that held leadership positions that allowed me a lot of the freedoms and the resources that I have now, allowed me the knowledge that I have to be able to navigate the space of, serving as president and a leader for the players, really a spokesperson for the players, because I'm not out here making decisions on my own. Like, having an executive committee that is so incredibly diverse and intellectual, both individually and collectively, having an amazing player association staff that has grown, and then being able to work with leadership on the league side through years of what felt like stagnation into years that feel like exponential growth. And I haven't done it by myself. And I learned from the people who also didn't do it by themselves. And some people had to, I think actually I learned from a lot of people that had to do it by themselves. And so I just want to make it better than when I came in.
What are you most proud of in your time in this position?
There's a lot of accomplishments, a lot of people talk about the changes that we made in the CBA. I always like to say that's the catalyst. That's not at all where we want to land. But I think I'm most proud of the relationships that I've been able to build with all of the players. Before being president, I just kind of hung out with my friends. And it's not that I hang out with everyone now, but I think I've done a decent enough job to where any player can hit me up if they have a question. And it happens. And I do like that feeling. I like knowing that I am approachable. Even if I don't have the answer, I love helping people, even if it's directing someone who may know the answer, helping someone figure out, where they need to go, who they need to talk to, what needs to be done. And I think that's probably what I'm definitely most proud of, being able to foster lasting relationships with athletes and the players of the WNBA.
With so many eyes on the WNBA in this particular season, as the voice of the players, the leading voice of the players, what would you want these new fans to know about this league? That
there was a lot that happened before you got here. A lot. Just dive into it, Read a little something, watch a little something. Search things. We have a wealth of information at our fingertips. And I feel like you don't always have to say something. Sometimes you gotta learn something. I think it'll help you be a better fan, help you be a more committed fan. It'll help you bring more fans, It'll help what we all want. That's to see this, hit the stratosphere. That's what we all want. We all want the same thing. Now, everyone has a different way of figuring out how that happens, but I really stress knowing your history. And that doesn't just go to the fans. That goes to the players. Don't come into a league not knowing who Cheryl Swoops is. Don't do that. Don't come into a league not knowing who Tina Thompson is. Lauren Jackson, like Tamika Catchings. Do your homework. Do your homework so you can roll with the big dogs.
I always say be curious.
Always.
Ask questions.
Yes.
Yeah. More questions than statements.
More questions, Like, more questions. We don't need people being loud and wrong.
Yes.
More questions. You're right.
Yeah. More questions.
Yeah.
There's an opt-out opportunity coming for the Players Association out of the CBA. If that happens, what is your number one priority I'm sure you're going to get a number of things done. But if there was just one thing.
I love that shortness. I like that.
I have faith in you, Madam President.
Thank you. It's not just me.
I have faith in the membership.
Yeah.
But if there is one thing that is top of mind for you that you would like to see accomplished in the new CBA, what would that be?
If I'm speaking as like Nneka the player, there's two things. More roster spots. I would really love to see that. It breaks my heart to see people like getting waived. Like it really does. And these are people that deserve to be in this league. We have expansion, yes, period. Let's add more roster. Let's add more players to that expansion as well. To each market that is expanding. You know, I really want to see that. I would love to see that. We have come such a long way, you know. We got planes that can hold more than 12 players now, you know what I'm saying?
Charters.
That was a huge win. So I would love to see that. And then secondly, I have to hold it down for the former players. That pension's got to come.
Yeah.
Healthcare for sure. We have to make this worthwhile, not just while you're in there. So as a player, that's what I would put into the hat. Now, once I talk to everybody else and I start hearing other people's perspectives, that could change, you know, which is, you know, that's what happened in the last CBA. I started talking to different players and, you know, there were things that I did not think about because I didn't have kids, you know? So that could definitely change. Mm-hmm.
When your basketball career is over, what will Nneka be doing?
Well, I'm not jumping into anything immediately. Hopefully not. I'd like to take some rest.
A sabbatical?
Yeah, sabbatical.
Yeah, off on the beach.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
But mostly, I would love to be in a leadership position in the league, you know. Whether it's on a team, whether it's at the league level, I would love to be in a leadership position to continue to help give back to something that gave so much to me.